Hello, welcome to Design Time. I'm Jackie Lacey. We had someone reach out to us recently that said, I can't really afford to buy a lot of flowers to practice my elements and principles or creative flair. Should you be looking for certification? One of the most important things is that it's not so much about the quality of the flowers when you're practicing. It's about stem placement and what can you do to manipulate those flowers. So what I thought I would do is to take an average bouquet. We've just gathered up a small bouquet, under $20 worth of flowers that we put together. You can get them just about anywhere, buy them from your own shop, order them online, whatever the case may be. A small bouquet of flowers, maybe 20 to 25 stems. That would include your foliage. That gives you enough of a selection for you to be able to do several things. Now with that particular bouquet, most people are going to start with something like this. It's just a round design that's been created with all the flowers placed where they're supposed to be. A nice bouquet for the fall. This is great for every day or for your in-shop deliveries, centerpieces, things like that. With certification, and when you're applying your elements and principles, it's really important that you're adding creative flair and advanced techniques. That's the area that pushes this to above average. And with most certification and competition, that's what people are looking for. The evaluators, if you're going through certification, would be evaluating on how you applied those extra techniques and creative flair. Sorry, I just went right out there. But we want to make sure that we take really great mechanics. You want to make sure that you pay a lot of attention to making sure that your foam is covered. Anything that you might be using, if you're using glue or you're wrapping, you want to make sure that that's done almost like it was done on a machine. Those are the areas that we're really going to pay very close attention to see that you do understand how to manipulate those techniques and how to apply those elements and principles of design. Now this same recipe, and this is where the practice part comes in, even if you know what this recipe is and what the value might be, remember in today's marketplace you have people that are looking for something specific. You've got several different generations, they have different styles, different tastes, so they're looking for different types of design. And you want to make sure that you're flexible enough that you can fulfill any order should anyone want to come in or place the order. They know that yes, they can get the standard round design that can go on a centerpiece or a holiday table or for an event, but then also too, you can take that same design so that you're not starting over. And I've actually taken that recipe and been able to create two different designs from the same recipe. Now, because we are looking at creative flair as well as technique, and we're also trying to stretch the dollar here, we're taking that recipe and splitting it up in two designs, which means you're going to have two different labor charges, and I'm talking about this for retail. So you could sell both of these. We've replaced some of the flowers with some accessories. If you're going through certification or if you're participating in a competition, you'll find that they're going to supply you with lots of things to choose from. You'll probably have way more than you could possibly use, and you want to be careful trying to use it all because that can also be detrimental to the end result. But look at placement and what can I do. In this particular one, we have scaled back the number of flowers. We've added in some of the great mushroom sponge. We have manipulated some of the bark covered wire and added in some ornaments and some nuts and berries and things like that. We're also manipulating the foliage. We're using some of our filler flowers as a line flower. We're showing that we do know how to look at line, form, placement, size, fragrance, color, all of that comes into play when you're looking at elements and principles. Now that's just a small example of a couple of the things that you might be able to do when you start practicing with a smaller bouquet. If we look at this, We've actually grouped and clustered the flowers, so that's a technique. We have manipulated a lot of the products that we're using to really reinforce that line. We've got a very vertical design, and then we've added some creative flair by braiding the lily grass with bullion and creating some movement within the design. We've grouped and clustered our products. So everything is, again, adding that creative flair to the elements and principles that we're practicing within. Now, what I thought might be beneficial is to take that same recipe and then how can we really push it over the edge to that next level by being able to just manipulate some of the product. Let's see what we've got here. We're starting with just those great three-piece set tray that's provided on the market. I've gone ahead and I've added some moss. You probably would be given some moss in certification or in a competition. If it's not mood moss, it could be sheet moss, it could be foliage, it could be manipulation of stems. There's lots of different things that would allow you to cover the surface before you begin, so that you can really start to manipulate that product and show that you understand how to do this. By adding that creative flair, we are dissecting some of the product here, so that we're really going to draw attention to that. I'm going to just move this around a little bit. This one's a little bit smaller, then that way it makes a little bit more sense. So we've started with just a couple of dissected sunflower heads there. That's a really great texture to add down in there. Let's look at what we can do to the Gerber daisy, so that we can really make that a focus within this design. I'm going to keep this design fairly flat, so that way I don't need a whole lot of stem, but I'm actually using the Gerber daisy as a feature right in there as well. Again, it's clustered and grouped. That's really important. Not that you always have to do that, but that is trending right now, and so you want to make sure that you look for things that give you a little bit of that trend. We have some of that great Florida cypress that's in here. Let's use that maybe for some vertical positioning, especially when you get something that's really branchy like this. You want to be careful adding that in over the top, because then that becomes the focus. We're going to place it there at an angle. I'm looking for a little taller piece to see if I can get that pointed up. Again, that's pretty branchy, so if you begin to manipulate that and cut back, it's not going to stand out quite so much and become the focus of the design, because we really don't want that. Now we want to look down in these areas here that you might need to tuck in a little bit of that moss. Remember, when you're using moss in any kind of competition or certification, you want to make sure that it stays inside the container. Remember that moss is a wicking agent. It will continue to draw on that moisture that's in the container, and it's going to wick outside the container. So you want to make sure that it's all tucked right down inside there. You know, I think probably for this we might want to move these around. That's one of the great things about doing a design like this, is that you want to build in the layers and the texture where it makes the most sense. We're going to continue to add in a little bit more texture here. We have those hypericum berries that we can tuck back here to the back. We'll take a couple more. The foliage doesn't hold up very well on hypericum berries, so you might not want to include that in that finished design. And then we've got these beautiful bicolor roses that we're going to drop down in there to combine the yellow and the red colors that we've added in here. So let's make those a feature here in the center. We have a couple of those. Again, we're not really manipulating the recipe that much. We're just bumping this up to an updated, upscale design with lots of texture built in we'll take even some of these daisies. I know a lot of times people will say, you know, if I'm given daisies, how can I do something that's upscale or different and unusual? A great way to use that is to use it as a basing flower, so that you're getting some of that color in there. You're bringing in the rich tones of fall, tucked down in with those designs. We'll take a little bit more of that bark covered wire, and we're going to add it in here for a little bit of texture so that it becomes a major player in the design without taking over. You want to really be careful that when you use something like this, it makes sense to the finished design and that it fits within the parameters of what you're trying to create. Just have to continue to bend it a little bit until it actually fits right in to where you're looking at. We've got a couple of pods right here. So we're going to tuck one right down in the back. And you can see we've got a beautiful design. We've got some creative flair that's been added in there. We've added in some additional color. We understand how to manipulate some of the elements and principles of design in here. You can continue to either add in some Menolino that you've braided, or lily grass, or another creative flair or technique. But remember to keep your techniques to 3 or fewer so that they don't get confusing. That way they stand out and you can plainly see what they're trying to achieve. I hope this will help you reach outside your comfort zone and see how you can update your look without having to recreate every recipe. And one little bonus throw in here that I'm going to put, a lot of people say, what if I'm just given a really common container? It's what you do to it that can push it over to that creative edge. Make sure that you think out of the box, look for techniques, and work with what you've been given. I hope this will help you as you start to create and go for that certification as well as competition. Join us again next time for Design Time. If you enjoyed that video and you'd like to see more, click the subscribe button.